Hi. So we looked over number 9 and did not factor, even though I tested all the different factors. So we have decided that one we're going to use the quadratic formula. And then let's go ahead and do the work to find the answers for all of these. So we're going to factor number 1, and that means I'm going to take the 6 and the 3, cut the middle term. So I have x squared plus 6x plus 3x plus 18. Draw my fence, take out my GCF. I've got x plus 6, then I've got a positive 3 and x plus 6 again. And then I like to kind of skip that last step of writing both factors to just going to the zero product property. So x plus 3 would be a factor, so I say x plus 3 is equal to 0, and x plus 6 is equal to 0. Solving for x, I've got x is equal to negative 3 comma 0 and negative 6 comma 0. Super fun. For number 2, we're going to complete the square. So that means I'm going to subtract 5. I'm going to move the old c. I'm going to add in the new c. So that's going to be b over 2. So 4 over 2 squared, which in this case is 4 again. So we've got x squared plus 4x plus 4 is equal to negative 5 plus 4. So that I'm going to factor this side. So it's going to be x plus b divided by 2. So that's 4 divided by 2, 2 squared is equal to negative 1. And then I will take the square root of both sides. So I've got x plus 2 is equal to plus and minus. And then the square root of negative 1, you know, is I. So solving for x, I've got negative 2 plus or minus I, comma 0. And I could write that as x. We can write that as negative 2 plus I, comma 0, and negative 2 minus I, comma 0, if we really wanted to. Okay, and then number 3, we're going to do the quadratic formula. So I've got a is 4, b is equal to 1, and c is equal to negative 10. So that gives me negative 1 plus or minus 1 squared, which is just 1, minus 4 times negative 10, all divided by 2 times a, 8. So I'm deleting my side work over here so that I have more space to do my actual side work, which is the work inside the parentheses. So that's going to be 1. And then notice I have 2 negatives, so that's going to change to a plus. 4 times 4, 16. 16 times 10, 160. So I'm going to have 161 inside the radical. So I'm going to have negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 161. Now 161 might be prime. When I add those together, it's not divisible by 3, it adds to 8. It's not even, it's not divisible by 5. And we know it's not divisible by 4, it's not divisible by 3. Is it divisible by 7? Let's find out. And is that even a benefit? Oh, it is divisible by 7. It's 7 times 23. So definitely no perfect squares inside of that. So I'll leave that over 8 and just write comma 0 as my answer. Cool. So now you've got some to try. I'm going to do the work quietly, and then you put in the answers. Okay, so for number 4, I got -5/3, 0, and 3/2, 0. On number 5, remember we're completing the square. So you may want to try it on your own, pause the video, and then see if we get the same answer. I'm again going to do the work quietly. Cool. So on number 5, the number that I added to both sides was 1, and it was also the same as b divided by 2. So that just made this one really special. So when I solved it all together, I got -1 plus or minus rad 6, 0. And then on number 6, again, we're factoring. So what was neat about with number 4 is I had fractions, so I had to do 2 steps to solve the equation versus number 1 where I just had 1 step. So I'm factoring here. And notice how I changed the order just because it was a little bit easier that way. You can always do that, but keep the sign. So I kept the sign with the -2 on the 2. Oops, I forgot the X. All right, so I factored that one super fast because I'm like a speed wizard. I took out the 2x, I took out the 5, it was x minus 1, they matched, so I knew I could just jump right to the answers. So instead of writing them in factored form next to each other, I did 2x plus 5 equals 0 and x minus 1 equals 0 and solved for x just using my regular solving skills. So I'm kind of on a roll, doing really, really great. We've got 3 more problems to go. I'm going to switch back to a purple color. Looking at quadratic formula, completing the square, and then quadratic formula again. All right. So, quadratic formula, -2 plus or minus 4 minus 4 AC times 3 times 1. All divided by 6. So then do the side work. 4 times 3 is 12, 12 times 1, 4 minus 12, and that's going to be -8. So -8 in the radical, I'm thinking, oh, let's factor that a little bit more. That's going to be 4 times 2, and then the negative I, right? Square root of -1. So when I go to write this, I'm going to have -2 plus or minus, it would have been the square root of -8, but I'm going to instead write, let's see, I take the square root of 4, so 2, then the I, and then the rad 2 that I didn't get to use up. All of this divided by 6, and then so that I remember to do my division correctly, I actually prefer to do it like this. So I'm able to divide those numbers out front. That's going to be 1/3 plus or minus, again, 1/3 I rad 2, and then comma 0. Another way to write it could just be, I don't need to write the 1, that's kind of implied. So I could say -1 plus or minus I rad 2 over 3. That would be the same thing. But because I erased it, you can't really compare them. But when they have that same denominator, you can write it as one big fraction, or you could just as easily write it as two fractions. The big idea is make sure that it makes sense to you, so that you can correctly divide those coefficients. And remember, we did that in Unit 1 as well. All right, number 8, I'm going to factor. Switch back to blue to kind of give myself some space back. So that's going to be 12 and 8, which was 6 and 2. So x squared. Oh, actually, we said we were going to complete the square. Let's do completing the square. It'll be really fun. X squared plus 8x plus the special number is equal to 12 plus the special number. So you're predicting, okay, 8 divided by 2, that's 4. Oops. I'm supposed to square the number then to get the special C value, so that's going to be 8 divided 4 squared 16. So that's going to factor to x plus 4 squared is equal to 28. Oh, this was a negative 12. It's equal to 4. So when I take the square root, I have x plus 4 is equal to plus or minus 2. So this one creates a really cool problem. So when I subtract 4, it says negative 4 plus 2 and negative 4 minus 2. I do that because I had a whole number on the right side of the problem. So negative 4 plus 2, that is negative 2, 0 as one of the answers. And then negative 4 minus 2, that's negative 6, 0. So this one was a lot of fun. All right, our last problem for this is number 9. Back to purple. We're using the quadratic formula here. So that's going to be negative 6 plus or minus 36 minus 4 times 8 times negative 3, all divided by 16. So I have two negatives, negative 4 and negative 3, so I'm going to have 36 plus, and then what number is it? So 4 times 8 is 32. 32 times 3 is 96. So I can't add like that. I have to add like this. 96 and 36. Carry the 2. 9 and 3 is 12. So this is 13. Okay. So I have negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 132 over 16. Did you know that 132 is 12 times 11? I did. This is one of the multiplications, so that's going to be 4 times 3. So that tells me I'm going to have the square root of 4 and then 11 times 3 left over in the radical. So let's see, that's negative 6 plus or minus. The square root of 4 is 2, then rad 11 times 3, 33, divided by 16 on both of them. So now I've got 16 and 6, that's going to be negative 3 over 8, plus or minus 2, that's going to just divide into 1 and 8. This is 3 and 8, so they're both 8, that's why I'm leaving it. And then rad 33, 0. Very cool. This is a lot of fun. So for all of these, we practice using our different methods. We've got the method of factoring, completing the square, quadratic formula, and for each one, we wanted to find the fastest one. And I don't know if the quadratic formula is the fastest one, but I know that that one works for every single one. So if you're really struggling with this, I would recommend you just become an excellent formulaire. So let's look at the x and y intercepts. Just as a reminder, what does that even mean? So remember the x-intercept, that's easy to find. You just plug in, oh no, it isn't. That's all the work we've been doing. To find the x-intercept, we can complete the square, use the quadratic formula, or factor. And then for finding the y-intercept, that's the one that's easy. So the y-intercept is 0, comma y. And in standard form like this one, remember it's 0, comma c. So I know that the y-intercept is 0, comma 9. That one was easy. What about the y-intercept for number 11? That's going to be 0, comma, so let's do the work. 1/4, oops, 1/4 times 0 minus 8 squared minus 10. So following PEMDAS, I do 0 minus 8. It's inside parentheses. That's going to be -8. And it's the parentheses that has the exponent. So I do -8 squared, which is going to be positive 64. So I have 1/4 positive 64 minus 10. So this really means I'm timesing these. So it's 64 divided by 4. So that's going to be 16 minus 10. I get 6. So 0, comma 6 for the y-intercept. Okay, I'm not going to pretend that that was the hard work because it wasn't. That was the easy work. So now to find the x-intercepts, that's when y is equal to 0. Okay, so for number 10, that's going to say goodbye, and we'll just say equals 0. So if I want to factor, first thing I notice is this 3, 6, and 9. I'm going to divide all of those by 3. So I'm dividing both sides of the equal sign by 3, and that's why it's allowed. So I have x squared plus 2x plus 3 is equal to 0. And I think that that's going to factor 3 and 2, will be 3 and 1. Oh, no, it doesn't factor. So I'm going to use completing the square because it's a 1 and then even. So minus 3, and then x squared plus 2x plus blank is equal to -3 plus blank. 2 divided by 2 squared, that's the new c value, is 1. So add in 1 to both sides. X plus 1 squared is equal to -2. Then I take the square to both sides. I'm really getting friendly with I, aren't I? I've got x plus 1 is equal to, remember we have a negative, so I just say I, red 2, and it's plus and minus. So one more step, -1, -1. And I've got x is equal to -1 plus or minus I rad 2, comma 0. So these are the x-intercepts. Wow. So yeah, finding the y-intercept is way easier. All right, let's find the x-intercepts for number 10. So we already found the y-intercept, it was 6. I'm going to erase all of this work and use this space to find the x-intercept. So I'm setting, instead of g, I'm going to say, let's just move this over too. Y-intercept was 0, comma 6. Say 0 is equal to 1/4 x minus 8 squared minus 10. So to solve for x, it's x minus 8, quantity squared, times 1/4 minus 10. So I'm going to reverse all of those. And that's just to say the last thing that I'm going to do is get rid of the minus 8. The second to last thing I do is going to be get rid of the square power. Okay, the third to last thing I'm saying it backwards now. So the first thing I need to get rid of is the 10. So I get rid of minus 10 with plus 10. Okay, I'm trying to isolate the x. The x is inside parentheses. So I've got 10 is equal to 1/4 x minus 8 squared. So some students might think, oh, I'll just distribute the 1/4 into the parentheses. You can't do that because the parentheses is being squared. So unless you FOIL it out, you can't do that. So what's something else I could do? Well, it's 1/4 times the quantity. So instead of doing that timesing, I can get rid of the 1/4 with dividing by 1/4, or I like to think of it as multiplying by the reciprocal on both sides. So the reciprocal of 1/4 is 4/1, And then we'll cancel that out. So times by 4 over 1 here is just timesing by 4. So I've got 40 is equal to x minus 8 squared. So that's pretty cool. So now I've isolated that x expression, but it has the exponent of 2. So I have to get rid of that before I can get rid of the 8, because PEMDAS says it's the second operation. So I'm going to get rid of it with the square root. And then I'm going to take this as 4 and 10. And I'm going to remember to do the plus and minus. This is going to be plus and minus 2 rad 10 is equal to, the square power now canceled out, and I have x minus 8. So I'm going to add the 8, and I add it to the front. And even though they're all even, I don't have to divide. So this is now my x-intercepts. And we got a visitor. So I have 8 plus or minus 2 rad 10, comma 0. Sweet. And these are our answers. Wow. So we did a lot of work here. What's unique about number 11, I really like it, is that we get to really showcase our problem solving, understanding of PEMDAS skills. And that one is in like the vertex form. So that one was a lot of fun. I'm really glad we got to do that together. Number 10 was very basic, just factoring factoring out the GCF, and then we got to complete the square. So nice mix of problems here. And I can't wait to do some practice problems with you in class tomorrow. Bye.